Hey guys, what's going on? It's Spins here, and I'm coming at you with another commentary. Today I wanted to talk about one of the scariest life situations I've ever been in. Now, this wasn't a life-ending one, but it could have been. When I was in 5th grade, short little me was in the Boy Scouts, and we were doing a food drive for the homeless, where we'd drive around neighborhoods, we'd put bags on the doors of people, and we'd come back a week or two later, and we'd take the bags that had cans in them. Now, we'd been doing this for about 2 hours now, and we just got into a new neighborhood. We drove in, we got to a row of houses, and the driver had stopped, so I figured it was time to get out. And I was told to get out too by one of the leaders. There were two in the car, and the leader was apparently wrong for me getting out, and I got out, and the driver began driving again. And my foot, this is a big SUV, 8-seater, so I wasn't tall enough to reach the ground, and so my foot got under the car, and the car drove over my foot. Now, I luckily twisted my body in time to keep my leg from snapping in two, but it did rip up a lot of my muscle, and the x-rays showed a large crack in my leg, which would have resulted in a complete straight through crack. But so I began screaming and crying, and they ran out of the car, and my dad was in the car too, and they ran over to see what happened. But for probably a minute or two straight, I could not breathe. I sat there going just trying to gasp for air, but I couldn't because my lungs had closed from screaming, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't move. I just froze. It was like literally, I almost had a heart attack actually. And so they ran over. They asked what happened. I eventually told them I was run over by a car, and they took me to the hospital. Now the nearest hospital was an hour away, so for an hour straight, I had to sit in the car in extreme pain as I just waited to get to the hospital. And once I got to the hospital, they gave me one child-sized dose of painkiller since I was only 10 or 11 years old. Now that did absolutely nothing is what I told them, and it was true, it did nothing. And so they gave me another child-sized dose, and when that did nothing, they ended up giving me an adult-sized dose. So in hindsight, they gave a child 2 adult doses of painkiller. Now I was luckily they did that because a lot of hospitals wouldn't have. They're not really supposed to. I was pushing the limits really for a child my size. But eventually they knocked me out, and for like 2 hours I sat there while they did x-rays and they stuck IVs in me. And it was terrible because after they finished and I woke up, they had to take the IVs out of me. And I don't think that almost hurt as much as being run over, in all honesty. I hate needles, and seeing the IV pulled out of my body, it made me nauseous. I wanted to throw up, and it hurt so much because the painkiller wore off, and my leg began to hurt again. And after we left the hospital, rather than putting me in a cast because they didn't have any on them at the time, we had to come back a couple of days. And so I got home and just wrapped up in a little cloth that kept my leg tight, and I couldn't move for 2 weeks. I literally just laid in bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't take a shower. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't do homework. I didn't even want to drink or eat. I had to be fed and watered really like a plant. Eventually, I was put in a boot though, rather than a cast, which is basically a cast you can walk in for 2 months. And eventually, I was okay. But I have permanent damage from it. I can't run for too long because of the crack in my leg. It causes damage. But if you guys enjoyed this commentary, feel free to leave a like and comment if you want me to do more of these scary situations. And peace out.